Patrick Tuohey is here with the Show Me Institute, libertarian-based think tank. He was all over this debate the last couple of weeks. You saw him maybe at the public library on KCPBS. I don't want to say advocating for the no side, but certainly trying to make the case for the no side, shall we say?
Well, certainly make the case that this was just half-baked, bad idea, so much we didn't know. What I want to say to a lot of people this morning, especially the yes voters who wanted this, like, you've got no one to blame but the campaign, the yes campaign, because I would love to know what they're saying to each other. They rushed this on the April 2 campaign. They were counting on low turnout, but they had nothing to provide voters. And it was, again, from the outside, it's tough to know what's going on, but it looks like it was just a complete cluster. They have to know that, right? There has to be people on the inside who understand that this was a huge missed opportunity that they brought on themselves. Mm-hmm. Maybe they just didn't get out of their own bubble. Maybe they thought they could run against Frank White. But this yes campaign had something for everyone to hate. Left, right, rich, poor, involved, uninvolved, a fan, not a fan, a season ticket holder, not a season ticket holder. I mean, there was something here for everyone to disagree with.
What do you think it ultimately came down to?
I think people just, I don't want to overthink it. And I've been listening to you for the past hour, and I think there's, some people are overthinking it. I think this was just, they couldn't answer questions. Yeah. Look, I was getting people calling me on my cell phone from Johnson County, right? I would get a 913 number pop up on my phone, and they would ask me fine questions that should have been answered by the yes campaign. I'm like, why are you calling some guy who's opposed to this asking very good questions? But people assumed that the answers were out there. That's what's important. People thought, I've got a question. Somebody must know it. And I had to tell them, that's an excellent question. Nobody knows the answer. You're exact. And people couldn't believe that this was such an ill-formed campaign. And then the other thing, which was out there in the ether, I think people just don't like being threatened. And they told us at the end, no, there weren't any threats. Everybody felt it. Everybody absolutely felt that there was a take it or leave it. We're taking our ball and going home. And that, especially for teams that have been here for 50 years, especially for people who have had such a history with these teams, their families, their children, that just made people not want to like you.
Yeah.
And again, there was no exit polling that I'm aware of, so maybe we won't really get to know, but
anecdotally, that pissed off a lot of people.
And that's really a shame. And it's vulgar. It's vulgar to say, if you want us to love you back, you're going to have to pay. Like, that's, people use the metaphor of abusive relationship or prostitution. Like, it's really vulgar, but it has worked in the past. Teams threatening to leave have worked here and all over the country. And maybe they need to rethink their entire pitch, no pun intended, nationally.
Patrick Tuohey's with the Show Me Institute. So what do you do now if you're John Sherman, if you're Clark Hunt? I said this morning they should put out a statement saying we're not going anywhere. Keeping these teams in Kansas City is our commitment, and just kind of leave it at that and then go away for a while. I think that would make sense to kind of try to reset the relationship with the fan and the taxpayer.
I don't disagree. I don't know that that'll happen. I don't
think it'll happen. It should, though.
I think they're going to go away and kind of lick their wounds and try to figure out if they understand what happened. But there's got to be some humility. They've got to try to understand what happened. If they just, double down and be just as aggressive as they were this time and just as hostile, they'll end up with the same result. I don't know. You never know in a campaign if it's capable of self-reflection, right? You think about our last presidential elections where you're blaming the Russians or you're blaming, voting machines because people can't reflect and take in the data and figure out what went on. One of the things I'd like John Sherman to reflect on is what kind of owner does he want to be? There is a model in professional sports of people who love the team and hate the owner, and some owners are fine with that. I don't think John Sherman is that guy. I think he's invested an awful lot personally in this community. I'm sure he's a good man, but his campaign really, I think
they let him down. The people around him.
In my experience, and this is completely anecdotal, I think the people immediately around John Sherman who work for him love him absolutely. They are very dedicated to him as an individual. And maybe he doesn't have somebody in his inner circle who can say, hey, you need to understand how this is being seen more broadly. And so maybe he was caught off guard by that. But again, there are plenty of owners who are perfectly fine being hated as long as their team is profitable and the team is loved. And if he's okay to be the kind of the heavy, you think of like a professional wrestling.
Yeah, but you can be that if you're George Steinbrenner, right? If you're George Steinbrenner and you're going to spend all the money in the world on players and you're going to win World Series, like, people will give you a pass. That's
right.
not the model to winning here. You can't, in the economics of baseball, pull that off in Kansas City.
Well, no, and you would know more than I do. I just think he needs to reflect, do I want people to like me or do I not care? Because this campaign did him personally, and I think the Hunt family did them really did them damage personally beyond just funding their teams and getting handouts for their teams.
You think Clark Hunt was getting calls last night?
I'd like to think he was. Again, this is the way that they've argued these things around the country. And for back-to-back Super Bowl winners to lose an election like this in their own county in a blowout should be making every other professional team owner think twice about, are we going to run the same play? Are we going to make the same BS claims about economic benefits? Are we going to do the same? We're threatening to leave stuff because it failed spectacularly here.
You were surprised, right?
I hate predicting elections. I don't like it at all. This time last week, I confided in a friend, I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a blowout because I was not talking to anybody who was an eager yes voter.
Yeah, no, you're right. I was at the Big 12 tournament on Friday night, and probably 10 people I talked to just asked me about it, or I talked to them about it. I found one yes vote. And these were people at a sporting event in Kansas City on Friday night, right? Like, these were sports fans, theoretically. I wasn't, like, hanging out in some arts district in the Crossroads. Like, these are sports fans. And I found one yes voter. And that was kind of a sign to me that, wow, maybe this is not just a social media sensation. This is, like, real on-the-ground stuff because of all the reasons you've talked about.
Yeah, it was. And by the way, let me give a plug. If you live in Johnson County, if you have never made it out to the Crossroads district, take some time. There's decent parking, unless there's a stadium there, and go spend some time in that area, because what people have done, I mean, I was at a place called Green Dirt last night, which doesn't open until next Wednesday, I think, but what a beautiful space, and a lot of work going into making it look really good. And if you haven't been there in a while, you can park, you can walk to three or four different bars or restaurants. Give a look at it, because we were losing more than just a couple of blocks. We were losing people's heart and soul poured into revitalizing a part of town, and that passion doesn't show up on spreadsheets. That doesn't show up in simple evaluations. That's an entrepreneurial spirit that we really need to nurture in this community.
Patrick Tuohey's with the Show Me Institute. So what has not been brought to this conversation yet that you want to make sure people are thinking about and is on the table? I mean, it's not a left-right issue. I think that's important to know as well here and think about. It's neither side of the political aisle can claim this as their win. It's really not about that.
No, I don't think so. I'd love to be able to say that this is a conservative or libertarian wave coming in Jackson County. Of course not. Of course it's not happening. But again, this is largely a loss of the Yes team. So many different groups who don't agree with each other. I stopped by the KC Tenants election party last night and grabbed the mic and spoke for just a few seconds. They did great work. I don't think this is a socialist win or however they describe themselves, but they got out there and did the hard work of knocking on doors, and they should be complimented for that.
Yeah.
But largely, this was a failure of the Yes team on its own merits. They just couldn't make their case. And again, they demanded to be put on the April 2 ballot. This was half-baked and, frankly, an embarrassment of a campaign. Sam Zeff put out a great thing last night. The Yes vote spent $50 for every vote they got, and the No campaign spent $1.50 for every vote they got. I mean, that just shows you the economics of what Yes had to do, and they still lost tremendously.
He did. It wasn't even all that close. He is Patrick Tuohey with the Show Me Institute. Hey, you've been doing great work on this front, my man.
You know what I'm excited about? What I found out too late in this campaign, I think it was yesterday. In 2006, a former colleague at Show Me, Timothy Lee, wrote a post about the original or the last stadium vote, and he made all the points that I've been making. This is not good for taxpayers. The research doesn't stand up. And so I'm really proud that, from Tim Lee to Eric Dixon to David Stokes to Patrick Ishmael, like, the organization has been saying the same thing for years about these stadium subsidies. We never win, right?
But and to your point, I don't think that's why necessarily. I'm not taking away from your guys' cause, but I don't think that's necessarily why it lost last night.
No, but it is edifying for me and probably my colleagues at Show Me to see that what the point that we've been making now has been picked up and run with by folks on the left and right. Everybody knows these economic impact claims are BS. And that's a win. For us, that more people are educated on the issue, however they vote, it's a win. And I knew people who wanted to vote yes, even though they knew that the claims of the yes campaign were BS. And for me, that's good enough.
Well, we've been following this from both sides, the yes side and the no side. And when it comes to the people on the no side, Patrick Tuohey has done a great job on that front. So thanks for being here, my friend.
It's my pleasure, and thanks for having us.
All right. Patrick Tuohey with the Show Me Institute on KCMO Talk Radio.